as well as a torched car connected to the case.
Vanished off a beach last week.
Today marking 1 year since 13-year-old Stefanie went missing from her new Sweden home.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me tonight. I've been researching missing person cases for a while now, and every once in a while, I come across stories that just stay with me. You know the kind, where the timeline doesn't add up, or a piece of evidence appears just a little too conveniently. And most of all, you're left wondering who these people really were before the headlines. So tonight I want to talk about 3 recent cases. 3 people who vanished or were taken under strange, tragic circumstances. Each story has odd gaps, sudden twists, and clues that raise more questions than answers. Let's start in Philadelphia with a young woman whose kindness and ambition touched everyone around her until the night she disappeared. Kada Scott was 23 years old. She worked in an assisted living, not glamorous work, but the kind that takes heart. Her coworkers said she'd sing quietly to patients, bring them coffee, stay after hours to comfort families. She had dreams too, wanted to go back to school, maybe nursing. She was the kind of person you'd just expect to make it. On the night of October 4th, 2025, she left her shift a little after 10 p.m. A coworker remembered her saying she was exhausted but excited about her next few days off. She stepped out into the cool autumn air, called her sister to say she'd be home soon, and then she was gone. 10:15 p.m., Kada clocks out of work. Surveillance shows her walking toward the bus stop near Germantown Avenue. 10:30 p.m., a coworker drives past the area. Kada isn't there. 11 p.m., family texts go unanswered. 12:45 a.m., her phone stops pinging towers near East Germantown. By morning, her family reported her missing. When police checked her apartment, everything was neat. Purse on the counter, uniform folded, nothing missing except her phone and work ID. That phone, by the way, was later found in a dumpster several blocks away, wiped clean. Police quickly zeroed in on 21-year-old Keon King, a man who had been harassing her for weeks. She'd met him through a friend, and when she tried to cut contact, he wouldn't let go. Phone records show 17 calls from his number the night she vanished, all unanswered. 3 days later, on October 7th, a 2008 Hyundai Accent he'd been seen driving was found torched in a vacant lot. Firefighters said the blaze looked deliberate. Accelerant under the seats, interior burned completely out. By the time police traced the VIN, the car had already been compacted for scrap metal. That means any DNA, fingerprints, or trace evidence inside was gone forever. On October 19th, an anonymous tip led police behind an abandoned elementary school. That area had already been searched by cadaver dogs earlier in the week. Nothing found then. But this time, when they dug near a cluster of trees, they uncovered a shallow grave. It was Kada. DNA confirmed it. The autopsy hasn't been made public yet, but police say they're confident she was murdered elsewhere and brought there later. Keon King was charged with kidnapping, stalking, arson, and evidence tampering, and prosecutors are preparing homicide charges once the medical report is finalized. But what makes this case so frustrating is how preventable it feels. He'd been arrested before, earlier that same year, for kidnapping another woman. That case was dropped because she was too terrified to testify. If that case had held, Kada might still be alive. And that's the part that gets me. When systems meant to protect people fail them again and again. She was 23, she had plans, and now all her family can do is wait for justice. Petros Krommidas had a future most people dream about. Born in Long Island, raised by immigrant parents, he was bright, disciplined, and full of energy. He studied political science at Columbia, worked for nonprofits, volunteered at youth centers. The kind of guy everyone liked. By 29, he was running for the Nassau County Legislature. He was also training for a triathlon, which meant early morning swims before campaign meetings. That routine would become the center of one of Long Island's strangest disappearances. April 23, 2025, 5:30 a.m. Petros arrives at Long Beach, parks near the Alegria Hotel. 5:45 a.m. Security cameras capture him, jogging across the sand toward the water, carrying a towel. 6:10 a.m. A witness sees someone swimming offshore. Then, nothing. 8:30 a.m. A lifeguard finds a towel, phone, and keys arranged neatly near the waterline. 11 a.m. Police locate his car, locked with his wallet inside. Everything was organized, like he expected to be right back. But he never came out of the water. No clothes, no body, no sign of struggle. Search teams worked for days. Helicopters, divers, sonar. Nothing. If he drowned, currents should have brought something ashore within a few days. Instead, there was nothing. Adding to the mystery, Petros was in excellent shape. Trained swimmer, former lifeguard. The odds of him simply vanishing underwater? Slim. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. Because Petros was still officially alive, his name had to stay on the election ballot. So, months later, with no trace found, voters actually saw his name listed. And since he was well-liked, he still received thousands of votes. Imagine that. A man who might have drowned months earlier still getting votes in a local election. Police lean toward accidental drowning. But his family isn't convinced. They pointed out that Petros had no history of mental health issues, no debts, no reason to disappear. He was due to speak at a youth event the next week, had meetings on his calendar, groceries in his fridge. His life was full of plans. There are whispers about political tension, local disputes, campaign rivals. Nothing proven, but enough to make you wonder. And then there's one last detail. Phone forensics show a call made from his number that morning. To himself. Was it a butt dial as he locked his phone? Or did someone else press it accidentally or on purpose? To this day, no one knows. When the ocean takes someone, it usually gives them back. But not this time. Not yet. "13-year-old Stefanie Dameron grew up surrounded by woods. Her family lived off-grid in rural northern Maine. Solar power, well water, chickens in the yard. Her parents described her as bright, curious, and a little headstrong. She loved drawing animals, collecting quartz rocks, and exploring the trails behind their home. On September 23, 2024, she got into a small argument with her sister over a borrowed hoodie. It wasn't serious, just the kind of sibling squabble that blows over in minutes. But this time, Stefanie stormed out of the house, down the trail behind their property, and never came back. Timeline. 4:45 p.m. Stefanie leaves the house wearing jeans, a maroon hoodie, and boots. 5:15 p.m. Her sister calls out for her from the porch. No response. 6:30 p.m. Sunset approaches. Parents begin searching. 9 p.m. Local sheriff notified. First search units mobilize. Midnight. Dogs track her scent to a logging path half a mile out. Then it just stops. The next morning, dozens of volunteers joined. Over the next week, the search grew to hundreds. State police, wardens, even the FBI. They covered more than 4,500 acres using infrared drones and aircraft. They found nothing. There were no footprints past that logging road. No clothing, no drag marks, no animal traces. But a few locals told police they heard what sounded like an ATV or motorcycle right after Stefanie went missing. Investigators looked into every registered off-road vehicle nearby. No match. If someone did pick her up, it was someone who knew those woods well. And here's another complication. Stefanie didn't have a phone or social media. Her family lived almost completely offline. That meant no GPS, no cell tower pings, no digital trail. Nothing for investigators to follow. Her parents have never stopped searching. They even built a small shelter deep in the woods where volunteers can rest when they look for her. Every September 23rd, they gather with candles at the trailhead, hoping someone remembers something new. The FBI still keeps her on their active list. There's a $15,000 reward, but after a year and a half, there are no new leads. Theories range from a tragic fall to a calculated abduction. Some even whisper about long-haul truckers who pass the back roads nearby. Whatever happened, Stefanie just vanished. And the hardest part is knowing that in a world where we can track nearly anything, she left behind no trace at all. So there they are, 3 people who should still be here with us. Kada Scott, who spent her days caring for others and met a cruelty she didn't deserve. Petros Krommidas, whose drive and ambition simply ended one morning on the shore. And young Stefanie Dameron, who walked into the woods and became part of their silence. Each story leaves us with the same ache, the need for answers, for justice, for truth. Because behind every missing person headline is someone who laughed, planned, dreamed, and mattered. If any of these stories speak to you, if you live nearby, if you remember a detail, a sound, a face, reach out to investigators. Sometimes the smallest piece of information breaks a case open, and if nothing else, keep their names alive. That's how we make sure they're never truly gone. Thanks for sitting with me tonight. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and please, stay safe.